Thank you. You know, I always be forgetting because I be listening to different music than you all. So sometimes I be forgetting to turn that mic back up because they will mute my whole live because I was playing somebody else's music. So appreciate that. But what I was saying is thank you. Forgive me for thank you for joining this week. It's going to be an interesting episode for me. We're supposed to have a guest a little bit later. Excuse me. So a couple of times I may have to look away to. Oh, hey Tanel, that's our guest. So as a matter of fact, the link and the direction should be at the top of the chat, Tanel. So um, you can watch the show for a little bit, and then in a few, you'll know. I'll give you a heads up. You know it. I'll be talking to myself all the time. Um, so I guess a couple of things I want to talk about before we get started with our guest reading tonight, which has been a while. Woo, woo, woo. So we're excited about that. Um, this eclipse energy and this full moon energy has been something very interesting for me, and it definitely has placed me in a position to be flooded with a lot of clarity, emotions, and feelings. So it's ironic because I don't even know where I want to start with this story. So just bear with me and just go with me. So I know something that has been kind of coming up repeatedly in my life has been this idea of take your own advice. And when people would say that to me, it would get like, no, and it's not telling me that I need to take my own advice, but in situations, it's one of those where I can give the advice and I can't take advice. Or sometimes they telling me I need to take my own advice. And and I would be confused by that because most of the stuff that I'm telling you all to do or try to do or is things that I've done myself. So I've definitely taken my own advice to be able to give it to others, or I feel confident about giving it to others. And then the other thing that had been coming up was this idea of feeling seen. And it was wild because I met a woman and she asked me to read her first day I met her, and and I read her. And at the end of that reading, she was like, it feels good to feel seen. And it was funny because I've had people say this and I got perfect responses for that. You know what I mean? Like I could tell you, I can validate your feelings and all of these things as it relates to the idea of feeling seen. But the experience myself, um, it was a little few and far between. So being able to emotionally relate to that feeling, I don't know if I could always could. I could mentally relate to it, but emotionally relate, I don't know if I could always do that. And something else that kind of has been coming up in my life has been this idea of what you're supposed to do, right? So I think when people speak on people's actions and behaviors as something they're supposed to do, as if it comes along with the job description of being human, I think it really decreases the value of appreciation. You know what I mean? In the sense that when you think people are supposed to do something, you don't appreciate the effort that they put in to actually do that something. So, like for example, we talk about like being able to pay your bills and wash your clothes and all of those things as adult behaviors, right? But when we think of those things as supposed to do, it really does devalue the work that people put in to do those adult things. It's a lot of work that goes into being able to pay your rent on time. You know what I mean? Excuse me, especially in this day and age. So I think this comes back to that idea of where we have normalized some of our behaviors and who we are to feel regular. And this idea of supposed to is something that reigned supreme in my life. And it was funny because like, okay, so in my life, I don't even know where I want to start. Okay, so I'll talk about that idea supposed to. And then I want to talk about this idea of discipline and and as a matter of fact, whoopings with our children and some of the unintended consequences or unattended lessons that we teach our children in the process of trying to. How you doing, Keish? Glad to have you here. You know what? Having you here made me think of something. Before I talk about whoopings, I want to talk about. Hey, Tiffany, man, I ain't seen you in forever. So glad to have you for a second. Listen, I want to actually talk about being talked about on my show. Listen, I'll be having experiences with people, and me and you might run into each other, and the next thing I might talk about you on my show, right? So this idea of let me see, where's that? I got a hella notes. It was funny because I took notes in talking about this idea of yeah being talked about on my show because people don't want to be talked about on my show, right? Which is wild. And I remember the first time I really had somebody vocalize this is an ex from a couple of exes ago in the country is when I had this idea to start a podcast. And I remember when we were breaking up, she did some interesting stuff. And in the process of breaking up, she was like, all right, don't talk about me on your podcast. And I thought that was crazy. I responded to that. I'm like, I get to talk about my life and moved on. So this idea of me talking about people on my show came up again in response to my last show, right? And when we talked about the visit, I had a visit from my friend, and we wound up having an argument over icing on the cake and all of this stuff, which is crazy, which is bananas. So they actually watched that show, and they didn't like that I talked about the show. Talked about what happened. And what I realized through these interactions when people don't want you to talk about it, people are a lot of times aware of when they've done something wrong or wronged you, right? And the funny thing about it is, they're okay, 100% okay with having wronged you as long as no one knows. But as soon as you put that out there, it exposes and they don't like that. Because it's not like I lie about people on the show. It's not like I lie about our interactions. I speak the truth. So one of the things that I was saying, if I literally, when I was thinking about this, I wrote down these, which wind up are going to be affirmations for me in the future. I'm like, I'm not seeking your approval to talk about you on the show. I don't need your permission to talk about my life. I don't need your permission. I don't need your permission. And if you want to sound better in the story, do better shit. Because I talk about people in my life. As a matter of fact, I talk about Liberty all the time. But she generally plays a better role in the story. So she's never offended because little generally when we interact, is reciprocity. You know what I mean? She wants me to be happy. I want her to be happy. It's an exchange of it's an exchange. We care for each other as friends should. You know what I mean? So that is what I want to say. People are really aware when they do something wrong. They just don't want you to talk about it. All right. So back to what I was discussing before Keisha distracted me. Doop, 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 doop. Tanel, I don't know if you on there. All right. So I was talking about some of the unintended consequences of spankings and whipping our children. So I was one of those kids who I got a lot of whoopings. And the funny thing about it is a lot of times when we compare, like when I talk about my childhood and whoopings, it's usually compared to children who got abused. So compared to children who got abused, I did not get a lot of whoopings. But compared to most of my peers, I got a lot of whoopings. I got more whooping. I got so many whoopings. They used to call me whoopings and punishment. Little punishment boy, right? Little punishment boy. That's how many whoopings I got. And because of a conversation, keep this idea of whoopings and something that it wound up inadvertently teaching me. So something that whoopings inadvertently teaching me, because one of the major conversations that we'd have whenever I'd have a whooping or something of that nature is a conversation about love and how this is done in love, right? And I never really understood that as a kid because I never could connect an ass whooping, excuse me, a spanking to I love you. That's almost akin to me punching a woman in the face and then telling her I love her. That doesn't that's an interesting dynamic to tie love to. So somewhere along the line, consciously or subconsciously, when learning this as a child, we inadvertently teach our children that pain and love go hand in hand. So many of us are, especially if we got whippings, because those are the people who whipped us are the people who loved us, supposedly loved us the most. And the wild thing about it is, nah, I ain't gonna bring up leather pants. I'll tell you what, because you made me think about it because of that conversation I had with someone, it made sure I had the courage to come on here and speak my vulnerable truth to you all. You know what I mean? So something that I ask of everyone is vulnerability. And a lot of people have been courageous in being on the show and exposing themselves to the world or whoever would look and exposing some of their vulnerabilities. And the wild thing, I think I do that a lot. But generally, when I share my vulnerabilities with you all, it's from a place of I've passed it. You know what I mean? Occasionally, it's I'm going through it. You know what I mean? Like when we started this show, it was pretty much, a little bit as far I was in that career transition. But a lot of the things I share with you all come from a place where I've recognized it and I've taken steps towards healing it, right? And then seeing you reminded me of a conversation that I wound up having and where last week's show wound up offending someone, right? And that's where that idea tied into my affirmations as far as I don't need your permission to speak about my life. And this thing is staying up here because it just keeps speaking to my spirit. So, having that conversation with that person let me realize that it is really okay. And everyone's not going to like the story I tell. But as much as I want to be able to help everyone else heal, I go through this process together. Like we both in the same boat. So we're gonna talk about something that was very near and dear to my heart tonight. So, and it ties into this idea of what you're supposed to do, losing the appreciation, ass whoopings, teaching love is pain, and a couple of things. So, this weekend I went to my friend's funeral, and that I told y'all about. And it actually was a good funeral, if that can be good. I thought he looked good, but it was a tough emotionally. You know what I mean? It was good to see some of my friends and family, and we could talk about him in ways that no one else knew. You know what I mean? So that was good, but it was still tough emotionally. And then Sunday, the warning is before the eclipse because of the energy. Try to lay low, and I tried to lay low, but my parents needed some assistance. You know what I mean? So I go over their house, and probably a couple of weeks ago, to give you a little perspective, a couple of weeks ago, my brother's wife reached out to me and asked me, um, what is why pretty much why doesn't my mom like her, right? And I haven't responded that question because I don't think it's my place really, and I want to give an answer, but any answer that I'd give would be assumptions. So while I'm over there discussing, talking about my mom, I'm talking with my mom, and I wound up telling her about the icing on the cake, and she was over like, "That's crazy." And it's funny too because the other part of that story was how I need a maid. I was telling my friend this story, right? And they've been here to my place to get some work done several times. And when I said I need a maid, they were confused, like, your place don't be that dirty. Exact. Your place is not dirty. Exactly. It wasn't clean to the level that that person wanted it. Not that my place is dirty. So I needed that confirmation. But anyway, so I'm sitting in my parents' house and tell my mom about the icing on the cake and stuff. And then I ask her about my brother's wife. And I know this is very sensitive, um, a very sensitive, hello, Juanita. Happy to have you. Very sensitive subject because a lot of contextual, it's a raw emotion for the family when it comes to my brother and his wife because they really started dating when they were children. And in the process of being kids, they definitely made some kid like mistakes. You know what I mean? But my brother and his wife have been together for, I don't know, I don't lost track how long. At this point, it's probably getting closer to that. They've been together longer than they haven't. You know what I mean? Through my brother's cancer treatments, through everything that he goes through, she's still been there. You know what I mean? And everything that she goes through, he's there for her. Right. And so at this point, um, it's wild and interesting because of some of the things that happened when I was a child or years ago. Um, she cannot come to my mom's house. It's very clear. So this is one of the reasons why she's curious on why, after all these years, you know what I mean? And the thing about it is, I've been talking about forgiveness. Forgiveness has been a word. Forgiveness is hard for a lot of people to do, especially when they feel wronged by the actions of another person. Forgiveness sometimes takes especially if it's one of those like I call eternal hurts. One of them hurts from places that you don't think that you should get the hurt from. You know what I mean? And it comes from that place. So in asking for a compromise or asking, because I really wasn't trying to ask the questions, but in asking for a compromise, or can we figure out some way to create a space where the family can heal? Me and my mom wound up getting into an argument, and in that argument, a lot of things became clear to me because in one part of the conversation, and it replays in my mind, one part of the conversation, I say, I'm looking for a compromise so the family can heal. And in response to that, I actually got that. So you saying I'm wrong. And that brought back, now I know why I'm always triggered when I clearly and carefully, people who admire my intelligence, They admire how I speak my passion, and I carefully craft my words and my language. Y'all see me struggle sometimes on this show in trying to pick the right words. And I pick these words only for someone to use totally different language. And I've read along, I remember Celestine Prophecies, the book that I've talked about. It talked about control mechanisms of other people, and that is one, misrepresenting what people say. So now I understand why I'm so triggered when I take this time to craft my language carefully and a person still hears something totally different. A lot of people want to read between the lines, but I'm one of those people that you don't have to read between the lines with me. I speak clearly. So as I'm having this conversation and seeing that my words are being changed by my first love, I realize why I'm triggered in every love after that when they do something like that, right? And then in the process, something that was said to me that replays mostly about the whole disagreement was we got to a point where I guess my brother's wife said something to my mom, which is so funny because God knows my brother married a woman just like his mama. I promise you. So much so that if she feels like someone is doing my brother wrong, she will stand up for him, even if it means standing up to his mama. And she did that one time, and she's been excommunicated from the family for 20 years. And I'm laughing because, like we said, laughter is a release of emotion. And sometimes you got to laugh to keep from crying. So, but anyway, she winds up saying something that my brother's wife said to her years ago that she hadn't forgot. And I can still see the anger and the venom and the passion behind her statement when she said to me, "You were not there." And in that moment, it felt like time stopped. And then it felt like time went backwards. And all of this information and all of these emotions came crashing in from that one simple statement. And it was wild because in my healing process, I was starting to feel like my sacral area, I'd be struggling to get that balance. And I don't know what it is. I can get everything else turning. And I was struggling, you know what I mean, to get this out. So once I heard this statement, you were not there, it all came crashing. It was like I remember one time my mom told me I see the world with rose colored glasses. And in that moment, the glass was broken, right? And I went back in time and it brought me back to this time where I I remember one time on this show, we've even talked about it that when I was a kid, we'd laugh about this. We laugh about it. My family, everybody. When I was a kid, I was put on punishment for like a year and a half one time, right? And to give you some context, my brother's 6 years older than me. And I had an aunt that lived upstairs, right? And but she'd just be there but my brother be gone. And my mother always worked second shift, either 3 to 11 or 2 to 10. So as I remember, and it's wild because it was pretty much my whole fifth grade year, which is wild. So if you ask me about anything that really happened my fifth grade year, the only thing that I recall really is that fucking punishment. So I remember when I started learning about people blocking out traumatic memories. And for me, I remember a lot of stuff, right? So for me, I remember when I learned about it, I was like, I ain't blocked nothing out. And then I remember one time I was having a conversation with my mother. And then we talked about it on the show. She told me that I was the one who found my grandmother dead. And I had totally blocked that out. And when she said it, I started crying. So when she said to me I wasn't there, I started crying because there were several times in my life that I really felt invisible, right? And if you knew me as a kid, it was wild because we talked about this and I talked to you all and we talked about how, I had this internal anger. And when I think about myself as a kid prior to that moment, I was not an angry kid. I wanted to play. I wanted to be a dancer. I loved art. I loved music. I loved a lot of different things. And then got to live in the city, and it's wild because I spent a lot of time, and it was wild because I spent a lot of time on that punishment in that room by myself with nobody home. So much so that I cried all the time. And I remember before I moved to North Carolina, I always thought that it was a period where I was supposed to see my pops. And my pops came and then told me he wasn't going to take me. And I thought that that was the moment that I decided I wasn't going to cry no more. But when I think about that moment, I ain't cry then. So I realized I decided I wasn't going to cry anymore before that moment. And it was that year and a half punishment. And for me as a child, I was only 10 years old. And because my mama worked second shift, she never really saw how it was destroying me on the inside. And after a while, I remember people would try to talk to her about let me off punishment and all this stuff. And there was no way that she would do it. And the only measuring stick was jail. So because I did not go to jail, that worked. You know what I mean? And the thing about it was, after I got out that punishment, I was not the same kid. And no one saw. I was angry. I cried so much in that room. And it's wild because now that that glass is broken and it's another layer of healing that I have to do, I can still feel him in there crying. And and now I understand this idea of feeling seen because it took the breaking of that glass and me looking for myself within to be able to find myself and be seen. So I see the little boy who decided not to cry because he's still in there crying. And around him, I built this protective thing where I can be aggressive, I can be violent, I can be a lot of different things when you step on that little boy. And the reason why is because that little boy didn't deserve that. I was never a kid that deserved a year and a half of punishment. The people around me saw me emotionally dying inside, but my own mother did not. And then it came to another period where I'll never forget when my brother left. And he got so frustrated and so angry at my mom that he ain't talked to her for years. And my mom was hurt. And the only person that was there was me. Through all the tears, through all the loneliness, through all the everything. And it's wild because I was there. And then to have the person that I love the most to tell me I wasn't there was crazy. It's not my life. All of those pains, when my brother left, he left me too. Because at this point, I no longer had anyone that could fight for me when I made a mistake. So, and I never forget, so this idea of the supposed to. So, one of the reasons I don't always even recognize some of the great things that I've accomplished in my life is because every fucking thing I did growing up, I was supposed to do. Literally. I mean, no matter what grades I made, I was supposed to do. It could be better. I graduated with 15, high school with 15 scholarships. Nobody else did that. And it was approached as that's what you were supposed to do. It wasn't even appreciated. And what I got for graduation is a random visit from my father. He was on my graduation day, and my mom didn't even tell me. So for me, instead of me being able to enjoy my own hard work, I had to deal with the trauma of my fucking father. And my own mother didn't even give me a warning to allow me to emotionally prepare. So I'm in this graduation about to ruin it for everybody because no one saw enough value in me to even mentally prepare me for this situation. Right. So then when it, like I said, as it comes to this idea of ass whoopings, it wind up teaching me that pain is love. And because, like I was saying, when my brother left, my mother missed him a bunch. And I lived in that dude's shadow. I probably dead serious. The first time I can ever really recall my mother being proud of me is when I was 34 years old and I got my master's degree. And up until then, I was doing amazing shit. But it was all what I was supposed to do, and none of it was what she wanted me to do. When I first got into education, the one person that told me I needed to get out of there every chance they got was my mom. And it's funny because now that that glass is broken, I realize some of the aspects of my dating. Before, I actually told y'all I had I had this I had a weird connection with the feminine energy. I talked about it with my homeboy, unhealthy connection with feminine energy. I talked about it with my homeboy. He wanted to love them all. And then I said I wanted to save them all. But once that glass cracked, it ain't that I wanted to save them. It's that I wanted the approval, feminine approval, even to the point where I picked a career that looked for someone to be proud of me because it seemed like nothing I could do would actually make my mama proud. And I was the first one to go to college. I graduated college homeless because I couldn't go back to that person and be like, hey. So it was real. It was confirmation for me to hear that I wasn't there as much as it hurt. And it made me think about one of my favorite poems. I'm gonna read it to y'all too. Tanel, if you about ready, I don't know if you still on there. Okay. Hold on, I guess should be there. I'm checking with them. I'm gonna read y'all my little poem. And it's by Khalil Gibran. And it's on pain. And I remember the first time I heard this poem was crazy. But it stuck with me since the Boondocks. No one, I don't know why no one ever remembers this episode, but it was the episode of the Boondocks. Hello, 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 everyone. So It was an episode of the Boondocks. Wingman. Wingman. Hey Sherry. Robanian, I guess. It was when Mike Epps died and they wanted Pops to speak at his funeral. So Pops go to his funeral, speak at his funeral, but he asked Riley to say the little poem. And as your pain is the breaking of the shell that encloses your understanding. Even as the stone of the fruit must break, that his heart may stand in the sun, so you must know pain. And could you keep your heart on the wonder at the daily miracles of your life, your pain would not seem less wondrous than your joy. And you would accept the seasons of your heart, even as you have always accepted the seasons that pass over your fields. And you watch with serenity through the winters of your grief. Much of your pain is self-chosen. It is the bitter potion by which the physician within you heals your sick self. Therefore, trust the physician and drink his remedy in silence and tranquility. For his hand, though heavy and hard, is guided by the tender hand of the unseen. And the cup he brings, though it burns your lips, has been fashioned of clay, which the potter has moistened with his own sacred tears. So for me, I needed that glass to break because it was a piece of healing in me that I needed to do that I could not do. And that little boy who sat in that room all that time by himself needed some healing. And it's wild because I don't even really think a lot of my friends recognize how much time I spent by. I was always by myself. When everybody got to go home, especially after my brother left, it was like literally I was by myself. So Tanel says she's on. We gonna check and see. Boop boopy doop. Oh, she is on. Hey, let me see. Hey Tanel, can you see me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay, yeah, we can hear you. Hold on. So we got you on the stream. Hey, everybody, hold on. Let me.
Wait, hold on.
I feel like I need to move over a little bit. I'm too far on the cut. So how you doing, Tanel?
I'm okay.
Okay, hold on. Let me cut down my TV a little bit because I know it's probably giving feedback to everyone. So have you been having a good day?
Um, it's been
A
a
day?
good day,
So
a
far?
trying day, but
All right. So I appreciate you having the courage to join us for this reading. We haven't done one in a while. Have you seen one of these done before?
I have not.
Okay, so generally in the process, I just give me a second. So generally in the process, I just allow someone to pick a pendulum,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just gonna go to each one of your chakras, starting with your crown, going down to your feet, your root chakra, and we're gonna see if the pendulum spin, and depending on how it spin, we're gonna have a few conversations around words that strike my intuition as something that you might be dealing with. All right.
Okay.
All right. So let me give me a second. Let me grab my little phone. So normally I'd be on here talking. I appreciate it. I know people's getting tired of hearing me talk all the time. So. Okay, so don't be nervous. I know you be trying to play it cool and stuff. It's gonna be pretty painless. I ain't gonna embarrass you. We're gonna keep it all gentle and friendly and all of those good things. So I need to move this over a little bit.
Okay.
I'm struggling. Woo, excuse me. Okay, so let me get to my notes because I feel like I'm gonna need some. All right, got any questions? You know what the chakras are?
No, this is all new to me.
Okay,
I'm following
so
your lead.
okay, so then I'll give you a little information as we go through it. So, like I said, there are 7, and we'll start with the crown. And for the most part, they like to put that fancy name as chakras, but it's just energy points. So
Okay.
the weird one is the crown because it's not really on your body; it's above your head. But for the most part, it talks about your thought processes, how you thinking, how you your thought processes. Period. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a purple pendulum. I have a royal blue. I have this yellow. And then I have the OG. This is my first one, the black. So now when I ask you these questions, go with your intuition. Which one do you feel like?
Black.
All right, let's go. I ain't used OG in a long time, so we might get a little action with them. Now I give you a little information. So if you haven't, so generally with your crown, it's your brain, your nervous system, and pituitary. So if your crown is out of alignment, so a lot of times you'll have issues with this. You might be having a lot of headaches or all types of things going on, but it's all in your head region outside of the nervous system. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just gonna hold it up. All I'm gonna do is just hold it up, and we're gonna look for the spin. All right. So that generally means that your crown is okay. So they generally say underreactive. They generally say underreactive, overreactive, or not reactive. So if it doesn't move, it's not reactive. Now, when it gets to underreactive and overreactive, I don't care because what they put under underreactive don't always fit under underreactive. I just know it's off balance. You know what I mean? So at this point,
Mm-hmm.
that would say your crown is off a little bit. And then I got this little cheat sheet. On one side is just the crowns, and then I just read these words. And if something sticks out to me, that's what you're necessarily dealing with. Ooh, woo.
Yikes.
So you are definitely dealing with feelings of misunderstood. You have a deep craving for attention. And the wild thing about it is it's not like it's not like public attention or it's a certain it's it's more like a recognition or appreciation or evaluation, but you need that certain that kind of attention. Doop, 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 doop. You got some stuff going on with you have an overactive imagination, which is probably why you cut your crown off. And you got a little stuff going on with your spirit. So generally in these situations, I just ask, which is it something of that actually speaks to you, or I just say which one that hits me the strongest. Any of those speak to you?
Yes. The first one that you touched on, as far as the recognition and attention, that's definitely going on with my career. Overworked, undervalued.
Okay, thank you.
I don't need to be center of attention, just appreciated. And my career has kind of pivoted in ways that it's kind of left me very confused.
Right.
So that really hit home. Um, as far as I think you said imagination running free, like full of ideas or whatever.
Overactive imagination.
Overactive. You're correct.
Yes,
That's very
overactive.
that's very spot on. Every other year, I want to quit corporate and start a job, start a business. It's great ideas. I just never step out on faith.
You know what? I'm gonna say something that I seen that I think that would probably be beneficial for this. So, one, you talk to the person who did that. You know what I mean? So I ain't work. I don't know if you know, but the people from the show know. I when I started this show, I wasn't working. and I didn't work for 6 months, but I was listening. I was on the TikToks, and
Mhm.
this girl was talking about how she's in the best relationship that she's ever had, and some of the things that she did to she had to adjust, right? And
Mhm.
one of the things that she was saying to women was, you gotta support your man's dreams, support their dreams. And it's funny because one of the girls in the comments replied to her and said, "What if all his dreams seem like pipe dreams?" And you hear that a lot, you know what I mean? And the girl had a very good reply. And she said, "Well, a lot of dreams seem like pipe dreams in the beginning. And especially if it's something that no one has ever done before. It'll seem like a
Mhm.
pipe dream until it ain't." And I say all that to say if it's stirring in your system like that, definitely start trying to figure out ways to balance that energy and
Mhm.
find your freedom because it's not going to go away.
I would agree with that. I definitely would agree with that.
So, and also I think part of what I was talking about first is um some of that fear that we have and taking a risk on ourselves isn't even our fear. It's the fear that our parents put on us and the fear that our family put on us. And I also would want you to take a little time to recognize what your fears and concerns are and recognize what are the fears that other people put on you. Because I could tell you a major fear that people put on you is you're not going to make any money chasing your dreams. They want you to have this stable job, this stable career. You work at 20 years, and that's not the way of the world anymore. You know what I mean? So take some time to separate your fears from someone else's fears and take some time to turn it on. So once you calm down those fears, you'll be able to process your thoughts a little bit clearer.
Thank you.
You ain't got to thank me, girl. We're gonna move on. Any one of the other ones you want to talk about?
Oh,
Okay, cool.
no,
So no,
that was
like,
it.
and I say this because you know me too. If we get to something and there's something else that you want to talk about and you don't want the world to know, we can always do this later. Trust me. Okay, so the next one is you know what? And I thought about wearing some purple too. So for your crown chakra, the color for your crown is violet. So if it's off, you want to spend some time in some violet lights. Put some purple lights on. That's why I got all these weird ring lights. But spend some time. As a matter of fact, eat some more purple vegetables. Eat some purple foods. That will all help with your crown, which is weird how it works. But the next one is your brow or your third eye, and for the most part, it's your intuition. So we're gonna see if you actually trust in that inner gut that you have going on. All right.
Okay.
And for that, the body parts that generally are affected by that are pineal gland, eyes, nose, ears, and skeletal. If you're having sinus problems right now, it might have something to do with your intuition. Mine been on fire. So I don't know. What were you about to say?
No sinus problems, but
Cool.
lately I've started with this whole um teeth grinding at night,
Who?
which I feel is coming from stress with work. So I'm getting ready to buy a mouth guard.
You been grinding that night.
Yeah.
Do you dream?
You know what? I don't really dream.
Okay,
I do
so
not. If I have a dream, I have a dream like once a year, if that. Like I admire people who say, "Oh, I had this dream last night." I don't really dream.
so do me a favor and make this part of your routine until you start dreaming and they start scaring you and then you stop doing it. Okay. So just generally when you go to sleep at night, you know what I mean? Water is a good conduit of a lot of things, whether it be, and you remember dreams and energy is nothing but electricity for the most part. So put a nice
Mm-hmm.
little glass of water under your bed, under your head, where your head would be, and dump it out occasionally. But you'll know when it works because your dreams will come a little clear. They'll be like movies. So that's help because generally you got all you like if your crown is a little clogged up, and I don't know what we about to see about your intuition. It's gonna be hard for your dreams to come clear. And if you're trying to make a adjustment in your life where it might be a career change, you definitely gonna
Mm-hmm.
need the power of your dreams. All right, so let's see how your intuition is doing. Okay, so your intuition is on a little bit. You still having a little time trusting it. You second guessing it a little bit, but it's functioning.
Okay.
You don't have to work on meditation. Do, do, do,
Oh
do, do.
gosh.
Yeah. So let me tell you this meditation thing. It's whatever the hell. Excuse me. It's whatever you want it to be. Because one of the most difficult things for me was this idea of meditation. I can never just sit there and be like, That's not. I'm gonna go to sleep. So it never worked for me. But
Mm-hmm.
what I could do is soak in the bathtub. So it's like me some candles, grab me a nice little bubble bath, and sit there and just allow myself to just be. That's meditation. Or if you like tea, I know you got your little she shed. Get you some tea, sit in your she shed, just listen to some music, plant some flowers, or whatever you need to do to allow yourself to feel a little bit of peace. But you don't have to be like it isn't always like and that's why I thought I could never do it. So I would say figure out some things that bring you joy, and some of those
Mm-hmm.
things will allow you to meditate. Do, 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 do. You got worrying going on.
Correct.
Um, you got a little self doubt going on too. Um, and you got some lost, but I think that lost is more tied to your worries. And of all of them, I think worrying is the one that's probably bothering you the most, for lack of better words. Do any of those speak to you?
Definitely worry sticks out a lot. My mom always said growing up, you can either worry or pray. You can't do both. Um, that's a
So
struggle.
which one you do? Worry.
Worry, which sounds
Okay.
terrible,
Cause
but
I was
it's
getting ready to
facts.
say, girl, like I wish somebody would tell me that, cause you know what I would do? Worry. Cause faith without works is dead. So just praying ain't gonna do nothing anyway. So
Right. So, I mean, I get what my mom was saying, but it's easier said than done.
yeah.
I'm working on it. I mean, I do both, but I worry more.
So why do you think worry is the one that grips you the most?
I don't know, just kind of always like, what's next? Am I doing this right? Am I on the right path? Should I pivot here? I mean, I don't worry myself to where I'm delusional or going crazy, but
Of course.
I probably should just chill out a little bit sometimes and be like, you know what? Whatever happens, happens. But I'm just not wired that way. I was just talking to one of my girlfriends and I said, I wish I had that, well, I don't care mentality. Whatever. I'm done. I'm out. I'm not a people pleaser, but I want to do my best.
So I'll tell you something about that skill that you admire. It's something that they worked on. And for you, something that's going to be able to help you is that, like what I said in that poem. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Focusing on your joys, then your worries won't seem as bad. And
Mhm.
then you have an issue that I had to work on, and I'm still working on it, and it's really trying to be present. You know what I mean? Because in my life, I was so worried about what was next, what I'm going to do future, or thinking about some of the mistakes that I made in the past that I couldn't be present in what was happening to me currently. So I would say for yourself, take a little time and work on being present. And then also recognize where some of that is your imagination. Because you've always been an imaginative person, and that can show up in a lot of different ways.
Mhm.
Okay. So work on being present. Take your deep breaths. We always talk about that, and it's a conscious thing. You're gonna have to consciously stop yourself and be like, okay, I'm gonna be present for the moment, and then at some point you'll develop that skill to be able to value because you've like I talked about earlier, you've accomplished a lot of things in your life. You know what I mean? So pause and smell your own flowers and enjoy some of your work. Um, Yeah, and unnormalize your greatness, for lack of better words. But that's something that we've been talking about. Okay, so let's check your throat. We're gonna see if you're communicating. All right, so that's moving too. I'd have been shocked if that wasn't, because one thing you've been good at is talking.
Here we go.
Like I know you. If you was a little girl in my class, I'd have been like, "Today you know a lot of words." That was my favorite thing to tell little kids when they say they talk all the time. Like, well, you know a lot of words. Like I do. Um, it definitely it's not fully in balance because the circle should be a little bit smoother, and it's so you do talk a lot, but there are some things that you need to adjust, and one of them is your stubbornness. Um, you can be extremely stubborn in the sense that once you have an idea and once you figure it out is right, it's hard for you to see how it may be necessarily wrong. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, and the wild thing about it is it really becomes difficult when there are two rights. So when you're right and they could be right too, you know what I mean? So I think
Mhm.
outside of that, you do communicate well, you can express yourself, you do speak truth. Um, Sometimes you got to be a little more gentle or not gentle. You got to recognize the receiver. So you got to speak your
Mhm.
truth in a way that the person you talking to can receive, which can be difficult. But you speak your truth. You really, which is surprising too, because I know you. I'm sure you went through a period where your truth was seen as criticizing, but surprisingly, that's not a big thing for you right now. You're not afraid to speak in public, even though you do feel fear. You're not afraid to do it. You got a little stuff going on with your creative, so take pause and get back to your creative side a little bit. Okay, any of those speak to you?
I think it's pretty spot on. Communication has never been a problem. Sometimes my delivery has been a problem. So, and also being mindful of the receiver. So, very honest. But I have had to work on that. I have let my communication skills spiral at times, and it's an honest working thing. I've been to therapy on that, and it's getting better. I'm not gonna ever just be quiet, but
No.
I could, put a bow on it sometimes.
That definitely pick your battles a little bit wiser, and then leave space for other people to have their own opinions and be able to receive how they might have different intentions. You know what I mean?
Right,
And
right.
how you felt may not be what they intended. I
Mm-hmm.
still need to turn that. Oh no, they already told me that. You see Tiffany on here? She said she see you, Tanel. She gave
Oh,
you a
she see
shout
me?
out.
So they can see me?
Huh?
They can see me?
Oh yeah, everybody can see you. See,
Oh
that's why it seems so. It's a little less painless because to you it's just me and you. But no, it's not just me and you watching.
Lord. Wait, you didn't tell me that. I didn't put on
No,
any
I told
makeup,
you. I said
no
when I
lip
stream,
gloss,
it's
no
YouTube,
nothing.
it's Instagram, it's Twitch,
Oh,
and it's Facebook. So at
we
any
live
moment,
live.
people, I wish you would have been on here the other day. Shoot, we got flooded by a bunch of people, so it was crazy. Yep, but
Okay.
yeah, and then a bunch of people always watch after the show, so we do numbers after that. So a lot of people gonna see you. Don't worry.
No.
And then when we blow up, we're gonna do a year in review, and you're gonna be part of the year in review too.
Okay.
So,
Hey,
oh god, all
where
right,
where are they now? Sign me up on an episode.
exactly. You get it, you get it, you get it. Then all I gotta do is give you a T-shirt. So I'm start making some shirts and stuff. I'll pass out shirts to some of y'all and do some giveaways and all types of other stuff. Hold on. Oh yeah, they tell you look fine. So the crowd, I mean, the people are encouraging you. Tiffany says she watching the whole thing. She been here, and
I did need some more support.
and somebody said they in their pajamas, so you good. Don't worry.
Okay.
I try,
Well,
girl.
thank
We can have
you.
people on this show straight from the gym sweating. So you all right?
Okay.
All right. So let's check out this heart. See where your heart is. You having a fight with your heart.
Okay.
Um, yeah, you saw how it moved. So what it feels like to me is like it wants to be moved, but
Hmm.
you got a hurt going on there that you not know if you're ready to love like you did. Whew, girl, you got some jealousy going on. You got some blaming of others. You got some feelings of giving too much. You got some self pity. You got some uncertainty. You got some neediness. You got some. This says fear rejection. I don't think it's fear rejection. It's feelings of rejection a little bit more
Hmm.
than fear of rejection. Um, it's funny because okay, this is wild too. So you still feel loving, and as sometimes you don't feel loved,
Hmm.
and I keep using that word feel because you feel loving, but your actions aren't always showing loving. You know what I mean? And a lot of times, a lot of us have an idea of who we are, and we actually might be that person, but our
Hmm.
behaviors don't always match that. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I think your feeling loving, your behaviors of feeling loving is matching how you feel loved, if that makes sense.
It does.
Okay,
It
so
does.
that's a lot, and I can tell. Okay, so which of these do you feel comfortable about discussing?
Um, I don't know. I probably, I have a lot of love in me. And sorry, I had to put my phone on the charger. I have a lot of love in me. It's just uh, work is really occupying a lot of my time, and it is spilling over in all areas of my life. So there's been a bit of a struggle there, but I don't really want to go too deep on that.
All right, that definitely we could talk about it. Let me tell you something about work occupying your time, because I don't know
Okay.
how much of the first part that you heard. I had got a friend, you may know her too, because we all went to Winston together,
Mm-hmm.
and she was like us in this position where she wanted to have something different with her career. She was working a third shift job, and one day she just finally was like, "The hell with it, quit her job."
Hmm.
And the thing that she wound up when we started talking about it is one of the things that she appreciated is she notices the difference in her family because
Mm.
now her family is the priority. So, and the wild thing is, a lot of times we think our families are the priority when we working so hard for them, but a lot of times the priority that they want is you, not your work.
Mm-hmm.
So,
That's
like when I
correct.
talked about my childhood, one of the most important things was to be able to provide for two kids. My mom trying to work for two kids, and
Mm-hmm.
because of that, I spent a lot of time. Most of my teenage years, I was by myself. My mother worked second shift from 3 to 2, and that being the priority. But as a kid, I'd have traded in there. She could have worked first shift, and I would have enjoyed seeing her a little bit more than knowing that she's doing all of this for us. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I would, and it's difficult to do because of how we were brought up, but you definitely have to start valuing your family more than you value that job. And that's
Mm-hmm.
probably why you got this feeling that you need to switch jobs so you can have your life back. I've known you for a long time, and one thing that has always been important to you is your life.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know you probably fell victim to the same thing that we all did, because none of us, when we was peewees, none of us thought we was gonna be workaholics. That was
Right. I
never in our
agree.
plan, but somehow we found ourselves there. And a lot of
Yeah.
the reasons we found ourselves there is because of what we were taught. We were taught to work ourselves to death. We were taught that's how you provide for your family. We were taught a whole lot of different things that don't work now. So
Mm-hmm.
feel okay. Make that adjustment. And as a matter of fact, I say that like that's an easy thing, but how you start to make that adjustment is take a piece of your life back at a time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So figure out something, carve that out for yourself, and make that consistent. So it might have to be a routine first, but carve
Okay.
all that out for yourself. Start taking some of your life back,
Okay.
and we can chat a little bit more about your heart stuff because I do want to talk to you more about that. It's a lot going on. Uh, 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 So we're gonna do solar plexus, and that's like your stomach area. Well, ooh, excuse me, I got gas. You got gas now?
No.
You have some stomach problems?
No.
Okay, cool. Solar plexus. Let's see how we doing.
Okay.
It's trying. It's like your heart.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're dealing with confidence issues. Um, you got something going on with your calmness, and it's it's not like you're actually calm right now. It's, for lack of better words, it's disconnected, and that
Mm-hmm.
disconnection is giving a perception of calmness. You know what I mean? You still got your integrity, which is good. Stubborn shows up again. You got some deep feelings of taking advantage of.
Hmm.
You got something going on with judgmental, and I can't quite catch the feeling because I think it's more of a back and forth flow, a ebb and flow, in the sense that somebody's being like, when I say somebody, I mean there's an energy because it could be work, it could be church, it could be a person, it could be, but some energy is being judgmental towards you, and you are
Hmm.
being equally judgmental back towards that energy as well. So that's why I can't say if you're being too judgmental or they're being too judgmental because it's like this. They're married together.
Okay.
Okay. So any of those really speak to you?
The calmness, yes.
Say it one more
A
time.
lot of the calmness. You said I don't have a lot of calmness.
Well, you have a perceived calmness, but it's
Right.
that calmness comes from your disconnection. So you're not really calm. You know what I mean? You disconnecting yourself so you can keep yourself in a certain area.
Yes, that really hit home. The best way to explain it would be, like I have a lot of open tabs going on right now, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I'm just, I'm having those moments where I'm realizing that um, work has consumed me, where I have a bunch of open tabs in my mind, so I'm not calm. But I appear as if everything's okay.
Oh yes. So okay. Can you close one of those tabs?
Um, I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
Okay.
I,
So
I
as a matter
honestly
of
will tell
fact,
you I'm working on it.
and that's all you got to do. And when I say that to say so you give yourself grace and patience. And that's why I specifically said, can you close one of those tabs? Because I know there's multiple. And when you start looking at all the tabs, it can be overwhelming or it just creates a mixture of emotions that is hard to peel back the layers. So just try to
Hmm.
think about one aspect of that and figure out what you want to do about that. Or ask like where you like your mom said pray, so ask for direction and be open enough to get the direction that they point you in, you know what I mean? And I
Hmm.
ain't even gonna lie, it might come from loss, because one thing that we've learned on this healing path is a lot of freedom that we have comes from loss.
Hmm.
Right, so we're gonna do your sacral, and they say that is your lower abdomen. They always say it's like below your belly button.
Hmm.
And for me, it covers all your genital area and all that. All it just covers all of that area for me. Because I wind up picking up stuff that I don't even want to know about people sometimes. So. All right. All right. You definitely going to have to work on some ways to release your energy, because this
Hmm.
pendulum is like all so like that a lot of them aren't moving a lot, but they're, if you were here you can see that they're shaking, so it's like bottled up energy. You're closing yourself off to try to balance yourself, and it's not working. You got to figure out a way
Hmm.
to expel those energy in healthy ways. So I think that
Okay.
might be why you bottling yourself up, because you don't want to release that energy in an unhealthy way.
Hmm.
You got some stuff going on with your passion. You still naturally flirty. You still playful. You got something going on for power. And on this paper, it says a need for power, but I don't know if it's necessarily a need for power. Need for control. Now that definitely, you control of situations is what makes you feel safe, and
Okay.
you don't have that level of control. Um, you got something going on with your sexual fulfillment too, and you have some feelings of manipulation, and I think that's also like that. The one out the judgmental, where it was like this. So I think unconsciously you are being manipulative to try to get some of the things that you want, and you feel like someone is also trying to manipulate you, and both are true.
Okay.
So any of those speak to you that you feel comfortable enough discussing now?
Um, no.
Okay, I'll talk about that. We can talk about that one later then.
Well, I have to process some of this stuff too. So,
No doubt. And I expect that too. So that's why I say we talk about it later, because generally after we have this, it winds up putting a lot of people on the point on the spot, because some of the feelings are energies they didn't always quite recognize, and they have to think about it, and then when they think about it, they be like, that's what it is. So don't feel
hmm
no pressure to have an answer. There's no expected answer. It's just, as a matter of fact, the answer is supposed to be for you, so you'll know where you
okay.
at and where you can go next. And the last one is your root, and it goes down to your feet and legs, and they say the root is in your sexual organs and all that stuff, but I don't know. I always pick that up in the sacral more than the root. So we're gonna see if you ground it.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, it's pretty consistent. You got a lot of bottled up energy that you need to release, and
Okay.
and the wild thing, I think, really, 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 some of it is tears. So you got to get in a position to be able to allow yourself to cry, and the tears, and the wild thing. I think one of your issues is you attach tears to sadness, and that's the only place where you really try to use it. But you probably had a couple of tears of joy, but there's tears of
hmm
frustrations, there's tears of confusion, there's tears of
hmm
clarity, there's tears of a bunch of things. So allow yourself to have those tears in other areas. Or for example, like at the beginning of the show, I almost cried, but that wasn't tears of sadness. You know what I mean?
hmm
That's past tears and tears of clarity. That's tears of recognition that you know what I mean? Now I can
hmm
heal this part of myself. There's tears of joy, you know what I mean? Tears of confusion,
hmm
tears of frustration. So some of that energy you got in you is tears, and you got to get it out. Um you are not feeling like you belong of this world. You got something going on with your trust, and because of it, it's messing with your independence. You still feel alive, which is good. You still feel alive. Um, because of your trust issues, you are relying too much on, because of that control aspect. It's
hmm
relying too much on your being bossy and domineering. Good thing you don't got no. Surprisingly, you don't have a big ego. You're not being greedy, you're not violent, and you're not being cunning, which is good. You are feeling frustrated. You got a little bit of fear, and
hmm
You got some feelings of sexual inadequacy. Um, yeah. Any of those you feel comfortable about talking about now?
Yeah, yes and no.
I got you. So, yo, we're not gonna talk about that one. I do kind of want to talk about the bossy and domineering. Because I don't think you also see that as, you know, how the idea of manipulation came up, and all of this, the bossy, domineering, manipulation, all of those are skill sets that are needed to create a situation that you can control. And it doesn't matter if you have good intentions or you
Mm-hmm.
have bad intentions, those
Mm-hmm.
skills are needed to control a situation. And I think you need to recognize that you are that kind of person that will actually do those things. Because if you've been successful in anything, you've had to do those skills. So you are a master at those skills. And a lot of times we tie so many negative feelings and emotions to some of these
Mm-hmm.
skills, and they're
Mm-hmm.
not good or bad. It's just how we choose to use them. And we got to recognize that that's it. And so for yourself, your safety is tied to a need to control. And I
Mm-hmm.
would suggest um, tying your safety to a couple of other things. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So a sense of control is okay. A need to control is can get questionable. And the
Right.
difference is a sense of control creates a balance. Like, you know what I mean? Like you have some choice, you have some urgency, you can do some stuff with your life. That gives you a sense of control. Like if you want to go left, you blah, blah, blah. A need to control is when situations are messed up and you trying to put it
Mm-hmm.
all back together, trying to fix it like that. That's need of control. That's not a sense of control because you don't have
Right.
no control. You don't even have control over yourself in that dynamic. So that's like a clear difference. Um, so for you, I think remember your heart and your root, and we'll talk a little bit more about both of those because I think you got some stuff going on in both of those areas that you need to dig a little deeper into.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll chat with you probably later this week.
Well, this was
Okay.
good. This was eye opening. Um, I relate to some items that were brought to the table. So, I'm considering this very positive. I'm not walking away from this experience as like, oh my God, I'm all messed up. No,
No.
it's very positive. It's awakening. Definitely some things I've been struggling with. And it's good to sometimes, hear it from a third party and just really recognize that I do need to start with some changes. I don't have control of everything, and it's okay to start over.
And this is coming from a person who you see and you know me. You know me from a peewee. And I bet there was a point in time that you never really, really thought I'd do something like this. But you see, I got logos blinking in the corner and all types of things. So it is. Oh, as a matter of fact, last week we talked about we're in that period of time where we're rewriting our contracts. So
Mm-hmm.
I would actually suggest that you go ahead and one, give yourself a little grace. Be patient with yourself because you know you can be your most
Worst
critical
critic.
critic. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And snatch onto the energy that a lot of people are rewriting the contracts, the communication contracts, the love contracts, the all the work, the work contracts. We rewriting the contracts, and no lie, it's a song by Kevin Gates that I've been messing
Kevin
with.
Gates.
Right. Right. Well, he say at the beginning of the song, he say we in the great divide. You choose to vibrate on. Do you choose to vibrate high or you choose to vibrate on? So this is
Mm.
it. We at that split. So you choose to vibrate
Okay.
high or you choose to vibrate on. But the energy is electric for you to be able to see some of your wants. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And I'm glad you see this as helpful because for the most part, I don't tell anybody anything that they don't know about themselves already. Only thing I help you do is put words to it and then sometimes give you direction on which things you need to address that you wanted to address in the first place. Because nobody comes on this show not wanting to do any work, period.
Well,
So
I'm proud of myself. I was nervous. I knew we were live, but you know, the the
see, but like I
definition of
said, it's
live
just
is
me and
live, and
you.
I have my phone on the charger, and that's why you can't see my face, but I don't care about that kind of stuff. Going back to what you said, not afraid to speak in a crowd. Um, but I'm proud of myself for really just kind of shedding a wall of vulnerability.
No doubt. And I add that the courage, the amount of courage it took to do something like this, because it's not easy at all. Because
Mm-mm.
even though, like I said, it's just me and you open yourself to a bunch of strangers and you open yourself to critique of random people. But the good thing about it is we've been trying to build this this thing for a while now. And generally, in this space, it's a safe space where people can communicate freely and talk about a lot of different things, and no one gets attacked. And as a matter of fact, I think it's to the point where if someone talks crazy in the chats, the chat will
Mm-hmm.
attack them. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? So it's all good. Yeah, you just see, well, I don't know if you saw, but hell, I had to wipe my own tears. Ain't nobody gonna attack you for that. So it definitely is a safe place, which is wild because the internet creates no safe places.
Right. I agree. I agree.
But I definitely appreciate you. I'll touch bases with you a little bit later. You know what I mean? You can stay on, watch the show or whatever. Well, we about to wrap up now anyway. You are the finish line.
Okay.
I
Well,
did
I
all, but I thank
appreciate your
you.
support and I appreciate your community support. So
No
thank you.
doubt. Tiffany said you did a great job. Leslie
Oh,
said
thanks,
you did a great
Tiffany.
job. And somebody said, thank you for letting us tune into your reading and being receptive and vocal about your experience. So, see, I'll tell you what,
Oh,
you
thanks.
never know who can connect to you until you take this chance. So, I thank you.
Well, thank you.
All right, Shawty. I'll check with you in a
All right.
bit.
Bye.
All right. Okay, gang. So I know it's been a while since we had one of those, and hey, we went over a little bit. But you know when we do those live reads, they generally take us about an hour and a half or something of that nature. So I appreciate you. To try to revamp some of the things that we talked about earlier is get my notebook, my handy dandy notebook. Um, the idea of supposed to please not please stop, but really recognize how when you think that people are supposed to do something, you automatically devalue the effort and the work that they put into actually accomplishing that thing, because the only thing we supposed to do is die and pay taxes. So anything outside of that is to be commended and gives positive reinforcements. Something that we discussed as that I myself probably needed, and I wouldn't be in this situation of seeking outside approval. Where are we at now? And then we want to make sure that we disconnect discipline and love, especially if your discipline is physical violence, because we have to recognize the unintended consequences of spankings and whooping some of our children, and it definitely does tie pain and love, hurt and love. So, and then the other things that we talked about were a couple of major hurts for myself. Had a little breakthrough in the sense of actually feeling seen And one of the things that's going to help me get past, and if you can relate to that, will be this idea of one of the best things that I've said, I've had was I have paid my cosmic debt, so it's no longer my responsibility. And then those two ideas of take your own advice and taking my own advice, and as I ask everyone else to be vulnerable and expose themselves on this channel, I too have to do that to a certain level, which it came to today, and then the experience of feeling seen. So I thank you for joining me this week. Uh, what's today? Wednesday. Okay, Thursday. And I'll still be back in town. I gotta go out of town, but I will be. The love contracts. Okay. Yeah. You want to go over love? Let me see my love. You want to talk about love or how we're rewriting the contracts? Because for the love contract, it's for the most part, it's just the homework that we've been doing. And what I did last week was actually put labels to what we've been doing, and that was rewriting the contracts. So, since you missed last, what did I add? Oh, and we definitely talking about the version between actions and words, where you need a combination of both. Yeah, it was wild because somebody actually felt like we just sat around and roasted them on this show last weekend. We ain't roast nobody. We don't ever roast nobody. I'm funny, so if I want to roast somebody, I can do that. But so where that contract came from was this idea of there's a group of thought or a culture or something where every 7 years um marriage is reviewed, and it is in an effort to extend marriages. And then when we extended it beyond marriage and into our lives, it wound up showing how every 5 to 7 years or so, we wind up creating new contracts for ourselves. And what we're doing now is creating new contracts based on our healed selves, and we're working on our love life. So the new things that we added to that was benefit of the doubt. We definitely would like to be able to have the benefit of the doubt, because as I talked about the disagreement I had over icing, the person really felt that I did that purposefully because I wasn't listening to them. And at any point, if they would have gave me the benefit of the doubt, we wouldn't even have had a disagreement. Then the idea of no comparisons. A lot of times people like to position their experience with you in contrast to what they're used to. And nobody cares what you're used to. And as a matter of fact, as you go forward and create new relationships, you do need to create a space for people to be who they are, because what you're used to can expand to new things that you're used to if you allow the space for people to be who they are. And which the next thing was the space to learn and make mistakes. So a lot of people have created these rules based on past experiences and past relationships and all of that going forward, that they're not going to do these things. So now a new person does not have the space to learn and make mistakes, because you already think that you already know every outcome. So if I start dating this new woman, my last girl cheating on me, let's say this is example, last girlfriend cheating on me. I start dating a new woman, and then she winds up doing something that might be similar. I'm going to think that she's going to cheat on me too. So now I'm hyper vigilant for that. So we want to create a space where people have the space to learn and make mistakes. And forgiveness, be forgiven for that. And then the last one was reciprocity, which is amazing that we didn't have that earlier, but there's reciprocity. Simple as that is. All right, so that's pretty much was last week too. The synopsis. But I thank you, people. I appreciate your support. I appreciate you joining me. I appreciate you staying over for this hour and 40 minutes that we had today. And I thank you. And I'll see you Thursday for book club or next Tuesday. You know what I mean? Give Tanel a shout out. Don't go stalk her, but she appreciates you. Thank you all. See you next week.